Welcome everybody to Hacker Valley Blue, where we get the industry's best and brightest cyber defenders to share their experiences and tips on how you can better defend your assets and networks. This season, I'm gathering some of the very best blue teamers across the field to form my all-star team of defenders who will use their talents against some of the biggest cyber threats that we face today. Join me as I meet with my team, learn about their origins, what drives them, and the pivotal role they play in the world of cyber defense. So without further ado, let's get to it. When it comes to IT and security, we can agree on two things. Complexity is increasing and manual asset inventory approaches no longer cut it. It's time to adapt. And that's where Axonius comes in. Axonius correlates asset data from existing cybersecurity and SaaS solutions to provide an always up-to-date inventory, uncover gaps, and automate action, giving you the confidence to control complexity. Sign up for a free walkthrough of the platform at axonius.com/get-a-tour. That's AXONIUS.com/get-a-tour. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching, this is another episode of Hacker Valley Blue. I am your host, Davin Jackson, with my blue team shirt on today. And I am super excited to have my guest on. So by now, you know that my theme for the season of Hacker Valley Blue is the Defenders, and I'm bringing up a whole team. I have different people from all different walks of life, but they have one thing in common, that they have a love and a passion for the blue team side of things and playing defense and, you know, defending against threats. So I've had several different people on so far, but to fill out my team, I have to have a strategist. When you have a team, there's got to be someone there, guy or girl, who can look at the battlefield or look at the field of play and almost like chess, think moves ahead. And when I was forming my team and coming up with that strategist person, I was lucky enough to find someone who I've known from previous interactions. But this dude is really smart. He's a mental chess player, super intelligent, and I had to have him on my team. So without further ado, let me welcome my guest, Marcus Bowie. Marcus, thank you for joining.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for having me. And again, this is another organic opportunity. So I'm excited for you for that, and I'm also excited to be on this show. So thanks for having me. This is a big pleasure, man. So thank you, man.
Oh man, no, the pleasure is all mine. And like I said, to form this team, you know, I'm from the red team side of things. So to have me with from my perspective, I have to have people around who know what they're doing. And like I
Oh,
said, when you have to have a strategist, I thought of you immediately.
oh man.
So I know how you get down, but for those who don't know, please introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
Well, to those watching out there, my name is Marcus Bowie. On Twitter, I go by the Cyber Reverend, and I am the COO and founder of MaxProd Technologies. This is a cybersecurity company in the DMV area. We specialize in security operations, digital forensics, threat detection, and workforce development. And so, been in the field in the IT field for 12 plus years, and I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm excited with the journey, and we got some big things coming down the pipe.
So you said you've been in the field for a little bit of time now, and you're just getting your feet wet. But how did you get your start?
Somebody took a chance, and I used my customer service. I started off at the help desk to get my foot in the door, and somebody came in my skiff with a suit on, and he had a BlackBerry in his hand. And we know this: you can't walk in the skiff with electronics or phones. And this dude did it, and that tells me that he's some type of bigwig to be that bold to walk in with that. So he needed help with his BlackBerry. I was off my shift. I worked overnight, and I stayed late to put chairs together. And another big wig was like, "Can you help him?" And just being the guy that I am, I helped him out. I used my customer service. I kicked somebody off their machine, rolled a ticket up, called over to the team, put it in high priority, and gave the gentleman the phone. And for after I gave him the phone, I forgot about the conversation. That conversation took about 5 minutes. He came to me and thanked me for it, and just like before, I was like, "Hey, man, I'm trying to brush him off. Hey, man, no sweat." But he insisted to ask me if I need anything from Diplomat Security, let him know. And the first thing I thought was Diplomat Security. That's the cyber team. And when he said that, uh, after that, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm the division branch chief." So I said, "Yeah, let's go talk about something. Let's go outside and have a conversation." And when we went outside, I began to tell him, "Yeah, I'm hearing about cybersecurity, and I feel like I'll be a good fit for the gig." This was a Friday morning. He asked me for my resume, and 3 weeks later, I was sitting in that seat. No degree, no certs, no experience. I'm sitting in the SOC analyst seat doing SOC analyst work. And that's how I got my first foot in. But learning, the next 2 months, learning how to do that job was work, and that's what catapulted me into other areas of cyber.
Nice. First, kudos to you for having the presence of mind to see that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Again,
yeah.
that's that strategist point
Yes.
of view that I'm talking about. You see someone walk in with in a skiff, which traditionally everyone knows a skiff is a place that you have no technology, nothing comes in, nothing comes out. You need to go in, probably see what's in that room,
Yeah.
read it, digest it, understand it, and walk out. But you can't walk in with anything tech related. So for him to walk around in a suit in a BlackBerry, that had to tell you like, okay, clearly there's a reason why they're breaking the rules. And you could have went
Right.
one or two ways. You could have challenged them,
Yeah.
or in your case, he needed help, and you were the one who answered the call. And then you talked about, and then you talked about and in 3 weeks you're sitting in the sock. Did you know you wanted to end up in a sock? Because it sounds like you could have went in any direction. So what drew you to the sock side of things as opposed to joining a red team or being a pen tester?
So I never told this story before. I'm gonna tell it on this one since it's Hacker Valley Studios. My MySpace got hacked one time, and there's a particular attack out there that is common, and it's probably the second highest next to phishing. It's called Credential Reuse.
Hmm.
I had the same password that was for my MySpace. That same password was for my Sprint account. And so when Sprint got hacked or MySpace got hacked, they had the creds to everything else that was related to that username. And everybody knows the username is the email address. However they look it up, whatever they do to do their OSINT or whatever recon on the email, it will pull up what else is tied to. And so when my MySpace got hacked, a few months later, my Sprint got hacked. And what happened was they ordered 4 iPhone 7s at that particular time and had it shipped to a different address that I've never been. When that happened, I wasn't in cyber. I was still doing help desk. But that made me think, how could I have what could I have done better to stop myself from being in this position? And so when he mentioned that he was the branch chief of Diplomat Security, I already knew that there was a cybersecurity team down there because I used to interact with those people playing ping pong in that area. So I already knew what they did, and I was like, man, I would like to come down and maybe work here, but there was never an opportunity. That was my way in once I knew that was the branch chief. So in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to do this, the defensive side, the protecting side, because you never want to be the guy that gets your stuff hacked, taken. It's a hassle, it's a pain. And so I always wanted to be that person to be in the defensive mode. And so when that opportunity came, yeah, I had my mind on it, and just like a chess move, I made the right move, and that's how I got my foot in.
Yeah, you turn tragedy into triumph,
Yes,
so to
yes.
speak. But but that, like I said, that's awesome. I mean, I'm sorry that MySpace and Sprint got hacked, two things that aren't really around anymore. So I think we're
Right.
showing our ages by having this conversation.
Right.
But yeah, credential reuse is a major thing,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot of times you hear things about, oh, it was a sophisticated attack, and no, it wasn't. You
Yeah.
either click the link or your password was showed up in a breach, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they did a password spraying or brute force attack.
Right.
Those are the two go tos before things get sophisticated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
totally
Right.
understand. So okay, so you're in a help desk. You see somebody who's a somebody. He puts you on. 3 weeks later, you're in a sock. What is going through your mind uh, as you walk into the sock? And I'm pretty sure you see the things going on. You hear people responding to calls or incidents. You know, people probably are using tools that, as a help desk person, you've never seen before. What's going through your mind? The first probably few days or even weeks in that sock.
The first thing that shook me up was the pass down. So in some environments, in this particular environment, you had to be on site 10 minutes before to receive the pass down. And it was not only the pass down situation, it was who was at the pass down. So all these people in suits, and they're serious. And the snickers of, if you're late at the pass down, we will reprimand you.
Mm-hmm.
That shook me up first. Like, man, this is a little bit more serious than help desk. But then getting into doing the actual work, looking at these tools I've never seen before, looking at the different processes and how um, very meticulous they are when they send out communication, how how critiquing they are when you write a ticket and you put the wrong info in, or you don't put the right info in, and they kick it back to you, and now you're looking at a ticket queue, because that's the only thing I knew was how to write tickets. You're looking at a ticket queue full of kickback tickets. What is this about? And then you deal with the idea of, you don't really know what you're really doing yet, because you're new, and there's no training, there's no on a job training. Nobody is showing you, oh, you gotta do this and this, or we're looking for this. You're just in the seat. And so navigating those waters was tough at first, because I had to learn real fast. I had to go home and study and come back and see if whatever I studied was actually worth it. I had to go through old tickets and look up emails that was already sent in the inbox to see if I can understand what's going on here, or how to process how they're doing things. So the first 2 weeks, the first 2 months was tough, trying to weather the storm and stay in there without having the feeling of, I'm gonna get fired tomorrow because I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Now, even in that case, I've never felt like I didn't belong there. I never felt like the term they use now, or they've used, imposter syndrome. I just always knew that I had to work hard to understand this information. I've always felt that. I've never felt like I didn't belong, because I got that job for a reason. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Not only just because of networking. I knew that they needed some help down there with the tickets and knowing who's who and stuff like that. So that may have played a part, as a selling point to get me there. But again, I got in, but I never felt like, even though it was overwhelming, I never felt like I didn't belong. And so that was the piece, the weathering the storm, the going in and doing the hard work of studying and working the extra hours at home to make sure I understood the content and understand the language that was used. It was a total different language. It was a lot of things that was different from help desk, but doing that in the first 2 months got me to where I needed to get to, when I pivoted from there.
Right. And I mean, and let's be honest, that person that you helped clearly saw something in you, right?
Right.
Because they could have easily just said
Thank you.
thanks
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
and kept it moving.
It kept it moving.
So they saw something in you,
Right.
and I like that you said, you didn't feel like you didn't belong, and you knew you had to do the work.
Right.
I remember my first pen testing job, and I did have some training in it, but this was like my first real on the job, like real world situation. And I was in a similar situation, right? I'd gotten my CEH, I had done all the things that they told me to do. I read the books, I did the labs, and now I'm put on a team. And that first month, it was rough. And then I got put on my first assessment by myself,
Wow.
and I freaked out because everything went wrong.
Dang.
So, the VPN wasn't working properly, or I wasn't connected to the right network, and I'm trying to troubleshoot with the client's network team, and they're not really forthcoming with information or with help.
Wow.
So now I'm freaking out and wondering to myself that I bite off more than I can chew.
Mm.
And it's easy in that situation to say, you know what, maybe this isn't for me.
Right.
Maybe I did bite off more than I could chew. Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. But it's those challenges that build that resilience that you're going to need in your career on either side of the
Yeah.
cybersecurity team you're on.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about, you didn't see a lot of tools before, and that, you're coming from the help desk. But do you think your experience in the help desk helped you understand and get through that tough time in the SOC?
Yes. Knowing who's who. So when you're in the SOC or when you're in the help desk, you're creating tickets to different groups. Now, let's say if there's a phishing email that needs to be purged. If I didn't never worked at the help desk, I wouldn't know who to talk to.
Mm,
I was able to create tickets to go to where? The exchange team. So I knew who was on the exchange team. I could just pick the phone up and call. So having that's one skill of knowing who's who by looking at tickets that you've already sent to these different people. The second thing is on the help desk, you have Active Directory. So let's say if you needed to lock down an account or somebody's a part of a certain domain, I already knew how to use Active Directory. So coming down there and I see Active Directory, that was cake for me. Oh, let's go look it up. Let's see if they're part of this domain that they've never seen before. That you can change the domain on or look at certain domains on domain controllers on Active Directory to see if a user is part of that domain. Looking at their object, looking at where they're located. That was already taught when I was at help desk. So I brought that down there too, knowing how to use Active Directory, knowing how to look at the account objects and see if the account is locked or see if there was a new account created, looking at the creation dates. So I already had that coming down there. So bringing that with me from help desk helped me a lot. It helped me to, I'm gonna say, compensate for what I didn't know on the cyber side. Like it helped me to hold a little bit of weight, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like I was able to pull my weight a little bit, knowing that stuff outside of knowing how to use the cyber tools and do
right.
instant response.
And that's major, because one of the things that people think about when they're trying to get into cybersecurity is, oh, I don't have the skills and I don't have the knowledge. But there are a lot of transferable skills. Uh, I also came from a help desk. I started from PC Workbench at Circuit City. There we go, showing our age again. But but I started at, PC workbenches, or
Yeah,
fire dog tech at Circuit City, to a call center for a cable service provider, to an intern, basically a part-time intern. And then I
yeah,
was like then I worked for a small business and kind of worked my way up. Then I got to help desk and desktop support and eventually sysadmin. But
yeah,
I took something with me from each of those
mm,
that helped. But when that time came to transition over to cybersecurity, um, I was also able to use some of those skills that I learned
yeah,
from being a desktop support. So, troubleshooting on the fly.
mm-hmm,
Uh, One thing that they don't talk about a lot are the soft skills, or your communication skills, your documentation skills.
yeah,
You talked about working with tickets. Now you know how to write tickets, or
yeah,
how ticketing systems work.
right,
Uh, Navigating through Active Directory. That helped me shine in the places where I was strong. And then
yeah,
in the meantime, having presence of mind to say, okay, I'm not that great here, so let me build this up. But while I'm doing that, let me make sure I try to expose my strengths, so it's not a complete bust,
Right.
for,
Right.
the employer. So now you've been doing this for a while. You talked about you making the pivot into the SOC, and then you made another pivot, and now your official title is cybersecurity engineer. So what does that job entail?
Oh my goodness. um, the primary job duty is malware analysis as an engineer. That's my primary job, but I still do engineering tasks. So configuring firewalls, I may be even tasked to code. That was my first task. My first task starting that job, I had to code something, fix fix a bug, a few bugs in some open source code. Um, and doing other things, working with other stakeholders, trying to get some tools deployed and testing different tools and stuff like that. Those are that's my the other job duties, the other duties as prescribed. But malware analysis is our first, that's our first task, um, doing this type of job. But and that's my 9 to 5. So I have other gigs too. So that's my 9 to 5. I am a forensics SME part time for another organization where I just do forensics for different cases and stuff like that as needed. I'm also working with my company, MaxProd Technologies, doing SOC work. So I do security operations, doing SOC tier 1, tier 2 part time as well, for another organization. And then for several organizations under one company, under MaxProd, I'm a security engineer and I do different tasks as far as installing tools, backup tools for different organizations. So I got my hand in the pot at different places. It's just, knowing how to juggle and move around. That's pretty much it.
And find time to sleep, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
oh, man.
definitely.
But so my next question will be to piggyback off of that is a two-part question. What excites you about the job? And then the flip side to it is, what is one of the most challenging things you have to face in each of those
Okay.
roles?
For every last one, the common denominator for what excites me about it is finding the answer, finding the accurate answer. There's 2 points, two objectives for either malware analysis, forensics, or just doing SOC work. You're either trying to prove a case or disapprove it. And so when you accurately find the answer to what you're looking for, that's rewarding to me. That's the rewarding part, is that I'm gonna find an answer. I'm gonna be a Lieutenant Columbo, and I'm gonna go outside the box, and I'm gonna find the answer to whatever challenge is put in front of me. The challenging part is for each one are different. So for malware analysis, what is the number one objective for malware? Is to slow you down. So that malware is coming in, is packed, it's encrypted with different types of algorithms, and you have to try to decrypt it, unpack it, um, reassemble it to a way to see what the malware is trying to do. That can take hours. Meanwhile, if it executed in your environment, the attacker's doing this thing. You know what I'm saying? They know what it's encrypted and packed with. You are slowed down in that analysis steps to try to figure out what is going on. And because it's not my primary, like my only job, I'm doing other things that requires practice outside of outside of work, to try to figure out, all right, now I got to learn assembly. Now I got to learn different binary types and different file types, and looking at the payloads, different types of payloads, to try to figure out how do I break this thing down to figure out what this malware is doing? What is the objective of the malware? Did it drop other malware? You know what I'm saying? That looks like it. So that's my challenge of trying to figure that out. On the forensic side is looking at the different file systems. That's one of the issues, but also is it's per case, it's by case or case by case, for each situation. So did the user do a misuse? Is the user inside a threat? Did the user do something where they took their device outside the country and now you got foreign access on it? So you got to figure out case by case, what are you investigating, but also what artifacts is going to pull that information. Sometimes the artifacts may be in front of you and you not really knowing that that's what it is, or finding what's normal. So like if that environment is spinning up a whole bunch of scripts, you not knowing that environment may think, oh, this is not normal, but it may be normal traffic. So sifting through the normalness of what's normal here, so I can find what's abnormal about each case. That's a challenge. And then for the SOC thing is there's other things. There's several things with the SOC. You got logging. Not all the logs may be turned on in the SOC. You got telemetry or visibility. You may not be seeing everything in the SOC. You may only see one part, and then you have to look for other avenues. And we talk about tools, not necessarily the tools may not show you everything. So that's where you got to not be one dimensional and find out on that box on that host. Can I find the answer without the tool? Which is what I teach my students. Don't be one dimensional and just be tool dependent. How can you find the answer without that? But that may not be available to you. Permission levels. You only may have certain permissions to see certain things. And so that requires, instead of you taking the ticket from cradle to grave, you may have to pass it to another team. That may be a challenge to you if the ticket's in your name. So you
Right.
got a tickets open and you can't miss SLA, or you're gonna get dinged for that. And so those are the three challenges in those three different areas that I face or I have faced.
So we're going to get back to that. I think now would be a good time to bring up our sponsor for this season, Uptycs. Uptycs provides the first unified cloud-native security analytics platform that enables both endpoint and cloud security from a common solution to enable security professionals like yourself to prioritize, investigate, and respond to potential threats across a company's entire attack surface. By unifying a visibility in a single tool, security operations analysts can focus on one tool set and interface to improve productivity and efficiency. So, Marcus, you talked about different tools and using different tools and having to know where to go for them. Would that be helpful in your investigation to kind of have one common tool that has all of that in one place?
Yes, especially telemetry. So if you got visibility of the network, devices that are managed and unmanaged, and then you have to go by also how deep in depth are they going into pulling the artifacts? What log level are they pulling it? If it's pulling certain log levels like host based, network based, like to a deeper, in depth, and you can see a lot of things, yeah, that'll be that. Yeah, that's definitely helpful, and especially in the SOC environment, to see certain things, and you won't have to pivot to different tools to try to find the answer, especially if they can do it in a single pane of glass. Yes.
Absolutely. And again, thank you to Uptycs. For more information, you can go to uptycs.com. That is uptycs.com. All right. So back to what you were saying about, chasing down malware and analyzing it and trying to figure out if you're looking in the right space. The reason why I chuckled when you said that is because that sounds a lot like what we do sometimes when we're looking at a vulnerability or trying to flesh out a vulnerability, and we fall into what are known as like rabbit holes.
Yeah.
So, you spend hours looking at a vulnerability and you think something is there,
Yeah.
and it's not. It
Right.
turns out
Right.
that you're looking in the wrong place.
Right.
When we're on a pen test and we do flesh out the right vulnerability and we do get the exploit to work and we get that command prompt, that terminal prompt, when we pop that shell, it's like a feeling of like excitement. Every time I do it in my head, I think of the Final Fantasy Victory song. What is that like on the blue team? Is there a moment like that that just kind of just
Oh, yeah.
has you feeling like success?
When you pull indicators from a malware that's been obfuscated, and you just so happen to properly decode whatever the code is, and you pull like a C2 or maybe some URLs from it, and you find out that that URL is an open share that has a bunch of tools. Now I got all your tradecraft. I download them. We download it, and you can and investigate those as well. And so that's one of the ways. But also, like, especially on the forensic side or the SOC side, when all of the logs are there to prove the case or disapprove the case. When you're seeing all the logs line up, absolutely put the slap on the wrist. That right there for me is to say that the ticket is an actual incident. Absolutely, absolutely. Those are the that's what makes it fun, and that's what we live for right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In my brief stint doing forensics, that to me was something that was exciting as well. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, right?
Yeah.
I always look at forensics like when you walk in, it's like shattered glass or like a 10,000 piece puzzle,
Right.
and you're tasked with finding the corners,
Mm-hmm.
building out the corners, framing it out, and
Yeah.
then putting all the pieces together. And then finally you can take a step back and go, I have the entire picture and I can explain to you what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yes.
If you can, share a time of when you put all those pieces together and what that felt like for you, especially like around the first or second time you did it.
We had a case where the user we can tie it to insider threat. I'm gonna say we could tie it to that, but I think the user may have been a data spill, but we didn't know if that data was taken from whatever that spillage was and used or sent somewhere else. There's a file location that was on that host called unsaved. There's a file location on that user's profile called unsaved documents. If you go there, there's different tags or GUIDs that will show you what type of document it was. Was it a Word file, Excel, PowerPoint? We were able to locate that that particular file and see data. So that right there showed me that, okay, it's not so much as to see if somebody downloaded something that has to do with a spill. It's, are they taking that data that was downloaded and trying to move it somewhere else? So you can either, you could tie it to inside threat, you can tie it to just misuse, or you can just tie it to a policy violation. But to see that piece added to that investigation was life for me, because you don't really know what people are doing if they download some type of file that's a spillage or that had a classification that wasn't supposed to be there. And when you see that and you look for it going somewhere else, you're stopping that in the tracks. And they're stopped in the tracks because you can trigger it. The alert will trigger. Hey, we see this document on your, to them, you thinking they closing out the system. They closing out the file. Oh, I didn't do anything. I don't have any files open. But when you go to that location, it's there. And so that's one of the cases that got me. I felt like I did my duty on that one, because you're catching something else that can be more than just whatever the initial incident was. So
Nice, nice. So, and now, were you investigating in real time, or that was it was a part of an
it
investigation?
was in real time. So
Okay,
usually somebody will self-report, hey, I accidentally sent this document to X, Y, and Z. Okay, now we're going to take that and we're going to investigate. Just the normal. We're going to investigate the normal, but then we're going to look for the abnormal. So, all right, was this opened? Was this document open? Did anything take? So they got clipboard data that you can look for. We just so happened to see that there was some other things going on with a particular user that made us point us in that direction to look in that direction, and we was able to find it, and it worked out.
so it was almost like a plot twist. So you went in with one theory, uh,
Yes.
You went in with one theory, was sure that that was the prevailing theory,
Yes.
and then you got hit with a swerve like a curveball, and was like, oh wait, hold on,
Yeah.
there's this over here.
There's
What's
this over
this?
here.
And
What's
now it
this?
and now it put the picture together.
You put the
Yeah,
picture together. Yep.
that's interesting. Like I always wanted to kind of be on those type of investigations because, like you said, it's like getting into the mindset or the thought process of whoever is performing that act that you're investigating.
Right.
You participated in an event recently where it was red versus blue, and you were speaking to your counterpart on the red team side, and they were explaining why red teaming and pen testing is awesome. But you came with receipts, right? You were doing like analysis right there on the spot in your like 3 or 4 minutes that they gave you. When you did that, I was like, oh man, that that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yes.
Which again plays into the whole thing in my head about being the strategic mind and of the team. With attacks happening more frequent and being more advanced, what are you doing, or what are blue teams doing now to stay ahead of the curve, right? Like we talked about in chess, you have to be several steps ahead of your opponent, so you
Yes.
have to almost anticipate what the opponent's doing. So what are you doing to anticipate what the next big threat is going to be, and preparing for that?
It's a tough task. Why? Because what's a 0 day? A 0 day is something that there's no real patch for. There's no
Yeah,
patch for. It's something out there. A threat actor can take today's 0 day, change one binary, one bit, add a piece, add a process, add some other type of detection, not detection, but obfuscation, and post it out there, and that's a whole new 0 day. Knowing that that can happen, you got exploit DB out there that's just updating all types of exploits. There's a new exploit every day. There are people sitting at home coming up with different types of trying to look for bug bounties and stuff like that, coming out for different types of ways to get into people's networks. So that's going to be hard to try to watch. Now, what keeps me ahead of the game, or keeps me at least ready, if I know that there's going to be some obfuscation going on, if I know that there's going to be, if you're going to pop a box, you're not going to be sitting on that user's desktop. You're not even going to be sitting in that user's download folder. You're going to touch the registry. You're going to go into that person's outdated local profile and sit somewhere, maybe in a temp folder. You're going to be doing something like that. If I know that that's the case, for me as an analyst, for me as a SOC analyst, a forensic person, a malware person, I'm going to be studying where would I go if I'm a red teamer. Look for these different entryways. Understand how can I get there quicker. So if, let's say, if an alert does fire off in the environment, I already know where to check because I'm practicing that. That's where the home lab comes in at. So I'm practicing. I'm going in, I'm looking at different types of indicators in those PCAPs that can help me understand when this traffic appears in our network, where do I go? So if I'm seeing any queries of discovery coming from my IPC share, looking for a domain admin, looking for LSAS. I know what to monitor as a defender. I'm going to be looking for any types of queries, going to those different types of resources. Anybody trying to touch those resources, and the IPC share, RPC traffic, Microsoft has allowed people to anonymously query that, but you got to be connected to the network. In most cases, you probably got to be already in the network to do that, or you can do it from outside, depending on how the policies and stuff are set up. But for me, I'm looking for how do I find detection around these different types of file locations that the attacker may be looking for. Creds, they want the creds, they want the keys to the kingdom. So I'm going to monitor that. I'm going to practice that. I have a home lab that has Active Directory in it, that has domain admin accounts in it. I'm generating different types of traffic. So that's what keeps me sharp. Also, understanding those different binaries that are used. So detection around that, understanding what those binaries are doing, understanding what each one will do that will look legit. Those are the things that will go undetected. So if I understand those, or focus my attention around the computer system itself and how it works, and I can prepare myself to look for different types of attacks before, even if they come out with a new 0 day. I already have a starting point of where I'm gonna look first if they was to hit that environment. And if they don't hit those environments, then I know where else to look once I find it. And I add that to my notes, I add that to my go-to, and it'll be a short night or a long night, depending on where that attacker or malware decides it's going to run. So
Yeah, I think, no matter what the attack or the exploit is, the end game is always the same, right?
right.
So you know what we're looking for. You know where we want to end up. On the flip side, yeah, you know some of the more frequent attack vectors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have those pieces to put together already, then you just have to kind of figure out the mess in the middle. And in figuring that, you were talking about doing things like practicing and downloading packet capture files or looking at binaries and stuff like that. Are there resources that blue teamers can go to practice like that for labs? Because I know with like red team or pen testers, we have a whole plethora of things. We have Over the Wire, we have Vuln Hub, we have Hack the Box, we have Try Hack Me. There's a lot of different places we can go to lab in a safe environment that's not going to break anything or take anything down. I expect I imagine that it's a little bit more difficult dealing with things like malware and stuff like that. But is there somewhere you can go to get that information safely and bring that over to your home lab to practice?
Yes, GitHub has a whole bunch of free stuff, and you can use VMware Player. VMware Workstation you have to pay for, but you can use VMware Player, VirtualBox to set up your virtual environment. You can use an old laptop, an old PC that you really don't care about to be that environment for you. You just need to be able to set up some type of firewall and segment your network at home to make sure it doesn't touch the other side. As far as the different resources, when you think about training platforms, there's one training platform I don't hear much people talking about. They should talk about. It's called Immersive Labs. It's a more realistic approach when you're dealing with different types of attacks and stuff like that, or different types of tasks, as far as looking at different malware, writing Splunk queries, and detection and stuff like that. Immersive Labs, I recommend everybody to try to at least obtain an account or see if they'll have a community version of it. Most organizations and jobs will pay for it, but I recommend that. As far as outside of that, again, GitHub has a lot of things. They have attack PCAPs up there. Um, they have different types of projects that people are doing some amazing work. Like looking at the live off the land binaries. Somebody created, and I wish I had their name offhand to give them a shout out. They created a project on GitHub, LOLBAS, for live off the land binaries, and they have one for Unix, Linux, and they have one for Windows. If you go to GitHub, they have that. You can go there, pull it down, see, and look at the different binaries that are used, that are signed by the operating system that can be used for evil. There's other people out there. My guy Josh, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Josh teaches malware for different malware courses. He has malware itself that's captured that you can use in your environment, that I use or starting to use in my environment when I teach my SOC class, that you can analyze and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of resources, but I would say check GitHub first and do a query on what you need it for. So if you're looking for detection rules, type that in. If you're looking for anything dealing with malware, type that in. And GitHub will be my first choice.
All right, so you just alluded to using certain tools and resources. when you're teaching. And I think that's something else that is major in coming up with a strategy, because you can't be everywhere in one place. Talk about the challenges of, taking, the things that you wish you knew starting, and things that you are preparing for in the future, and creating a curriculum around that to teach, the next generation of SOC analysts.
Well, the challenge is this: everything's always new. There's always some new detection, new malware, new attack, new way of doing things. Cloud is now a factor, which learning that is a whole different ballgame compared to just working on the actual device. Do I hit all of the pieces? I hit, like, what do you would look for? Like, what are the breadcrumbs? What's the main base of the recipe? Yeah, I touch those. But as far as staying up to speed, and it's like every day I find something new. I should throw this in the class, or I would run through something on one of the contracts, and I say, man, I should throw this in the class because they're going to run into this once they get on the job. And so, me documenting not the proprietary stuff, but just the process of, if you had to deal with this incident, how would you do that? In today's landscape, if you had to deal with that incident, how would you do that? So that's the challenge: is keeping up with documenting the new stuff that you run into that are going to be a problem for somebody coming into the field. That's the biggest piece of it, and just making sure that you have the environment tailored to recreate that. So, me having a home lab, me having people, uh, being able to scale and have people come and learn on my lab, being able to tailor that lab to reenact what I saw in the real life world is another challenge. Resources and making sure you have, the right setup is key, and a lot of that has to do with, again, finding, you know, let's say EDR, and I have a favorite EDR, and I don't know if I can say the name of it, but I have a favorite EDR that's not community version. They don't have a community version, so I got to go with a community version to show that there's EDR experience in my lab. But also, no matter what you use, it serves the same purpose. The EDR serves the same purpose no matter which one you use. It's just showing that I have it. So those are the challenges: making sure you can recreate the environment so that people can use it, the way it should be done, that are being done right now in the industry.
So it sounds like you're telling them that the class doesn't stop after they leave the classroom.
Absolutely not. So the biggest scare I have is, once I teach you what I teach you, hands on, is that you sit on that. You know, you're not going to get a job right away in most cases after you apply after learning this knowledge. You still got to stay sharp. You know what I'm saying? You never know when that interview is going to come. You never know when you're going to get that phone call. So having a home lab at home to stay sharp, to keep ready, is key. Is key. Just to stay ready, just in case. And there's a saying I like to say: be ready so you don't got to get ready. You know what I'm saying? If you got to get ready, then that ship gonna pass you up. So if you already ready, you're ready to go. Once it's time, once it's time to get the ball rolling, you're ready to go. So that piece right there, it doesn't stop with my class. It's just a pivot point that you can go into deeper. You know what I'm saying? I just teach you what the base is, and you just pivot and grow into other areas.
So the saying that I've heard lately is, to truly be good at something, you should teach it. Does that ring true?
It does. It keeps me, because if you don't use it, you lose it. And so, if for me, if I taught it, something I learned, something that you don't really master it, but stuff that you learned and have done. Once I teach it to you, that tells me that I understand what I just taught, or what I just learned. If I teach it to you the way it was taught to me or shown to me. So yeah, teaching definitely embeds what you have learned, as well as going over it again. practice not only makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. So if you keep practicing it, practicing it, you're going to see one side of it. But once you teach it to somebody else, now you see that what was committed to memory come out, and now it's like, oh, I got it. You know what I'm saying? It's like riding a bike.
Teaching holds us accountable. Teaching,
Yeah.
because you never want to be the person who gives out the wrong information. You don't
Right.
want to be the person who led them astray or led them in the
Sure.
wrong direction.
Right.
So I feel like teaching holds you accountable because you want to make sure that all your ducks are in a row. You want to
Hmm.
make sure that things haven't changed since you did it maybe
Right.
if it's like 5-10 years ago, and that that the information is still accurate or still or the sources that you use are still reliable sources. So I definitely think there's a level of accountability that comes with teaching or mentoring, or even blogging or doing how-to videos or YouTube videos. There's a sense of accountability that comes with it that you should take seriously, if that's your goal. What do you think has to change in cybersecurity, there's a cybersecurity landscape, to help better defend it as a whole?
There's some the pride has to go. All right. So if it's one team, one fight, and but you have an outdated way of thinking, and you're in the leadership position, most leaders don't want to be challenged that way. Most leaders don't want to be told, "Hey, I think this is wrong." So when you have that governing environments, you're never going to change. What needs to change is there needs to be, like you mentioned, accountability. Yes, there's accountability for the analysts. There's accountability for the team leads. There's accountability for the contracting officers. There's accountability for some of the GS workers. But the people that makes the decisions, who are they accountable to? Who's checking them? There's nobody really checking them because the people above them probably don't even know. You got that problem, but then you got another problem. We talk about defending, and I'm gonna say this because I'm in the field. We talk about bringing in talent, hungry talent, people who are capable, or people who can be capable. But you have the language in some of these contracts or RFPs that stops that process. There are what, 500,000 unmet jobs right now? Why? What's in the language of the contract? And a lot of people get mad at the employers for posting these type of jobs, but they're only mirroring what's written in those RFPs. Who is writing the language of that? Who is responsible for writing the language in these types of job positions? A junior should not be looking or needed to have a CISSP if you're looking for X1Z, or if
It's
you're
not,
looking for a junior,
yeah, it's not realistic.
it's not realistic. So that needs to change. Once that person, whoever is writing this language, maybe they need to be educated on today's landscape. You don't really need to have a CISSP and 5 years experience or 2 years experience with CISSP, or 1 years experience with CISSP. You maybe need to get that somewhere down the road. Maybe if somebody educated them on what's actually practical, what works, maybe assessment needs to be done. Maybe take that person to the SOC and say, what are your needs? Then let's write these job posts. Then let's send this out for companies to go after it. Then the companies post. Maybe that will help the defense landscape, because right now it's hard to get in, and it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder because the language that is being posted out there, there's so much noise that makes it on these job posts, and that makes it hard for people who are hungry, who are willing to be like me. I'm gonna come in, but I'm gonna learn it, and I'm gonna try to make sure I'm the best at it. That makes it hard for that person to get in because that language that needs to change.
Well, and I think the other thing, and you just touched on it, you're going to come in and you're going to learn it. I also think that companies should be a little bit more patient and work on developing their people.
Right.
You can't expect everybody to know everything out the gate. One thing that I hate when I hear recruiters talk to, whether it was me in the past or mentees or anything, is you need to be able to come in and hit the ground running.
Right.
There needs to be a grace period for a learning curve. There needs to be more chances taken on junior level talent. There
Right.
needs to be some type of development, in-house development for these new people. And I know you're going to hear people, well, that's not profitable, that's not money, that's not in the budget, or that's taking away man hours from qualified people to do real work. I get that, but I also think that would help with a lot of the turnover that a lot of these companies are seeing. Because on top of the fact that you said there is something like 500 some odd jobs that need to be filled, there are also people are leaving jobs a lot faster. You talk about the great resignation. Well, it's not necessarily the great resignation in cyber. I think it's more of like the great shuffle, the great reshuffling,
Yeah.
because you have people who will stick around for maybe 6 to 8 months and then leave and then go to the next job or go to the highest bidder or go out and start a business on their own. But
Hmm.
I feel like if you have that homegrown talent, there's a sense of loyalty and like a morale booster there.
Yeah.
When you work with these people, I mean, you're gonna obviously you still need to take care of them and do what you got to do, and pay them what they're worth and pay them equally and treat them like human beings and honor things like work life balance. But if you show that you're invested in your people, that if you invest in your people, I think that will also help with job retention.
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm gonna hop off my
No.
I'm gonna
No.
hop off my
No.
soapbox. But
You know, I wanted to say that as a solution
right.
is, and you took the words right out of my mouth. In-house training program. Because guess who got that? Help desk. We will give you 3 weeks paid training before we put you on board. You sit in this room, you learn this skill, you learn how to touch Active Directory, you learn all the different groups, you learn how to process our different tickets and stuff like that, and then you take a test. And if you pass that test, we put you on the floor. So if that was, I haven't seen that on cyber. That's why MaxProd Technologies offer that. We will come into your environment and assess your tools and assess your SOPs and then create a training program based upon that. And then anybody that you think or deem that could be a potential candidate, you send them in to our training program. We'll run them through the training. We'll show them how to use your SOPs, your tools, and stuff like that. And if they pass the sniff test. You put them on the shift on the floor. That takes the stress off that. That takes that weight off them, and you outsource it to another team. That's exactly what I was about to say, and that's why we offer that. We offer that type.
And I think you just answered my next question, which was going to be something that you could implement in your company that would make a huge difference. But yeah, so
Yes.
so so we're even. Dealing with the new students and dealing with people who are new to sock life and everything like that. What are some recommendations or tips that you would give to them, just starting out?
There was something that was told to me when I first started help desk, and it said, "Don't chase the money, chase the experience. The money's gonna be there, right?" There's a lot of people jumping in and making rash, just ad hoc decisions of jumping into the field, spending buku dollars for training, and because their motivation, the number one motivation is the dollar. Then when they get in and see how much work it's going to take for them to keep up with the curriculum, keep up with the training, do the type of work, they no longer want to do that type of job. So you just wasted money. So my first recommendation is don't chase the money, chase the experience. My second recommendation is don't be somebody that's all over the place. Do a self-assessment of, just a pre-research of what's out there, the type of jobs that you want to get into. Do a self-assessment. You may not be a person that they want to sit in front of a desk all day and look at monitoring. You might be want to be somebody that might want to walk around to site to site, to be on your feet. So do a self-assessment of which job would best fit my personality, my lifestyle, my preferences. You may be you. I've known people that don't want to work remote. I know people that want to be on site. So find a job that will make sure you on site every day. You know what I'm saying? So do a self-assessment first before you jump head in and say, "Oh, the money's great. I can buy me a supercar." Okay, all right. When you get in here, you find out how much work it's going to take to keep up and stay relevant in the game, and you ain't got no work ethic. That's going to throw you off, and now you out doing a whole nother profession. So start with that. Don't chase the money, chase the experience, but then put in the work. Again, it's going to take work. It's going to take work. Doesn't matter your age. It's going to take work. Don't look for the easy way in. You know, there's easy ways to get in. No, but it's going to take work to stay in. There's people who got in easy that ain't in no more. So it's going to take work. So be a hard worker where you are now, so you ain't got to work too hard when you get to where you're trying to go. You know what I'm saying?
There it
And
is.
then lastly, be that geek. You got to be. We talked about home labs. You got to be a geek. You know, set that lab up at home. Get that experience. Get that training under your belt. You know, get that repetitions. Get those reps in, just like how the athletes do, just like how the superstars do. Get those reps in. Get that training in, and be ready. So you ain't got to get ready.
Being a blue teamer, I'm sure you've heard some of the flack that comes with being a blue team, some of the misconceptions and complaints that people have with blue teaming. What is one misconception that you wish to clarify or correct right now?
Uh, that is boring. Most people want to go red team because that's a sexy word. Blue team's actually fun.
Yeah.
All right, that's one of the misconceptions that I don't want to do blue team. I don't want to do sock work. I want to do red team. I want to hack things. I want to pwn a box. I want to pop a shell. Okay, that's cute and all, but look at where the deficit is. Look at where all the open jobs are. It's on the blue team side. You'll eventually get there, and a lot of people think it's just boring because it's not a sexy word, but it's actually fun on this side of the field. Like once you get on this side of the field, it'll change your mind once you get your hands on some of these things. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that, and also getting into the field itself. Again, certs, certs versus degrees is the biggest argument. I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for me. I got in without either. The times have changed to where it's a more stricter now. So you got to have at least one or the other. And there are doors that are open right now for me where I'm at, and there's doors that are closed right now for me where I'm at. But the biggest misconception is the certs. What certs do I get? What degrees do I get? Look at what the industry wants you to have. That's the certs that you want to get. Do an assessment. If you got a particular cert in mind, do a search in the job post, a job board, and see how many jobs look for that cert. Don't go chasing all these different certs and that don't really play a part in your employment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could do that at some point, but just be strategic, be intentional, and be targeted about that type of approach.
I agree 100%. I didn't go to college, so I have certs, and I actually got a bunch of certs, but that's because I transitioned halfway through my career. But you're absolutely right. I usually tell people get the foundational stuff first. So get your network plus, get your security plus, get that foundation there. And then do some more research
Yeah,
into what exactly you want to do. So if you want to go blue team or you want to go the SOC side or you want to go to threat analyst, look at the certifications that are catered to that. If you want to
yeah,
go red team, look at the certifications that are catered to that. Too many people jump from cert to cert and become these paper tigers,
yeah.
and and don't get to actually utilize those certifications. So again, I thank you for joining. Please tell everybody how to find you.
Yes, I'm on Twitter, the Cyber Reverend, Commandante Bowie. That's my handle on Twitter. And you can find me on LinkedIn as Marcus Bowie on LinkedIn. And if you're looking to take a class, and it's a private class, but since it's Hacker Valley Studios and it's David Jackson is hosting it, I'm gonna make it public. If you decide that you want to take the SOC class or looking for SOC training, just go to maxprodtech.org and you'll find that information on there about the class, what you'll learn, and everything you need for the class. So
Well, I greatly appreciate that, sir.
yeah.
So again, thank you for joining, and thank you all for watching. This has been another episode of Hacker Valley Blue. I'm building up my team. I have my strategist right here, Marcus Bowie. And again, thank you to our sponsor, Upticks. And now I guess we're going to also thank MaxProd Technologies for the training. So if you want more information, go to maxprodtech.org and tell them that Davin sent you.
Yeah.
And we'll get it moving. Again, this has been another episode of Hacker Valley Blue. Until next time, stay safe, stay dangerous. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hacker Valley Blue. If you did, please remember to like it, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and colleagues and family members, get it all out there, and make sure you tune in for the next episode. Also remember to join our Discord server, and you can talk to me and some of the other Hacker Valley family. So make sure you go check us out over there too.